Welcome to the Orion Sportscast podcast, the most refreshing analysis, insight, and opinions in the world of sports. Here are your hosts, Josh Egan and Brandon Waterhouse.
All right, welcome back. Episode 5. Let's keep it going.
We are excited to be back. We took a week off. There wasn't a lot to talk about, but then kind of around Tuesday, Wednesday, a bunch of news started breaking. We got some NBA news to talk about, NFL news to talk about. It's Masters week. Tiger Woods is in contention. Phil Mickelson's in contention. We got Dustin Johnson at the top of the leaderboard. Masters in November. Looks like it's going to spread out till Monday. Some NHL news or lack of NHL news, and it looks like we're getting steps towards the Raptors having a home. Ticketmaster's come out with some new COVID policies. We got a lot to get to today, and I am excited about it. How about you, Brendan?
Yeah, man. I'm definitely excited to be back on the microphone for sure. It feels like it's been a long time for us, and it's not like anything negative in terms of personal lives, just taking care of ourselves and making sure that what we bring is, with 100% like of us, and we're just sitting here every other day to just get content, right? We'll make it exciting and worth hopefully everyone's while. So it's been a while since we last talked, but that also leaves a lot of room for like news to come in and stories to build and stuff to talk about. And as you mentioned, the most recent thing would probably be the Masters and Thursday Night Football, which it's up to you today.
Yeah, so Thursday Night Football, we had the Colts beating the Titans 34-17. Phillip Rivers was 29 for 39, 308 yards, 1 touchdown. Ryan Tannehill, 15 for 27, 147 yards, 1 touchdown. I think we can see what happened there. One quarterback was better than the other. This was kind of an old school game. The game was won on the snap, the O and the D line going at it head to head. I didn't quite watch a lot of it. I was watching Masters highlights, to be honest, because that tournament only kind of comes around once a year. But we can touch on this game pretty quickly because it did have some big stakes. It was the battle for first place. So the power in that division has now switched as the Colts take the lead in that division. Did you see much of the game?
Good news is that I guess it's not good news, but I wasn't too aware of the game and necessarily who was playing. I knew it was Thursday, so I was wondering who was actually going to be on. But as you started Snapchatting me and sending me some pictures, I realized who was playing. And then also you asked me for my pick, and it was the Titans and the Colts. And I haven't seen much of the Colts, but I know the Titans have, they have tendencies to, pull up some wins and are pretty dominant usually. So I thought that they would take over the Colts, which I haven't heard much of. But, you were mentioning that the Colts just started to take over, and I honestly can't talk about too much about it last night because I can't say I watched a lot.
No, and then I don't think either of us were really truly invested in that game either because none of our teams were in it. I like football as a sport, but if there's something going on against it or, just something that piques my interest a little bit more on a Thursday night, I'll take that. But we do have some other NFL news. We got a pretty big one coming out of Buffalo where Josh Allen says he wants to be a Buffalo Bill for life and, do some work in the community. He loves being in Buffalo. And I think this is huge for Buffalo because they don't see a lot of athletes hang around, be it in the NFL or even the NHL. I think a lot of people kind of see it as a dumping ground. And if you're from the area we're from, when you go down to Niagara Falls and you look over into Buffalo, you kind of look over there and it's like, well, there's not much over there. And I guess that's the perception it gets. I mean, the arena's right there. And I've been to where the Bills play as well, and there's not much surrounding there, but apparently the city where the players live is quite nice. So it's nice to hear that from a star quarterback in Buffalo. This is good for the Bills because he is lights out this season. I think he's potential MVP candidate. If he can string together, I think they've got 6 or 7 games left, or maybe 8 or 9. He's got potential here to win the MVP for the season. And for him wanting to stay in Buffalo and not go to a powerhouse team or a team that's going to pay him more money, this is great news for the Bills. Like, I love it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you bring up a lot of good points, especially in years past where like Buffalo has kind of had a perception of someone that wasn't going to make the playoffs. It wasn't a guarantee to make the playoffs at least. And, was almost just known for like a wild fan base and just players coming in and out really, So to hear Josh Allen, like I said, the reason the Buffalo Bills are having success is Josh Allen. To hear the voice of that say he's grounded and staying there for, the rest of his career is really promising for a lot of Buffalo Bills fans. Every Buffalo Bills fan, I would imagine, you're not going to find another quarterback like Josh Allen in his youth and his frame and his skill set and kind of his passion for your community. I mean, I think this quote comes like a couple days after the whole community funded over $100,000 for Josh's grandmother, I believe, who passed away. And like, that was insane. Like, Josh had done things for the community, but this was the fans raising money for Josh's grandmother that definitely, as you can see, probably through this quote, struck a heartstring with him.
Yeah, and
you heard about that, right?
It's nice to hear that.
Yeah,
it's good to hear, and I hope he wants to stay, and I hope they want to keep him. I mean, the Bills are finally relevant in the NFL for the first time since the 90s. And
yeah, last year they were something that people talked about, but this is like the proven thing that this is kind of like, it's not a fluke. So
right, and they definitely still have some tests this season. I think they still have to play the Steelers, who are 8-0, and I think that kind of segues us into the Steelers are 8-0. They just got away with a win this week. They were playing, was it the Giants? They were playing, I believe.
No. The Steelers played wasn't it the Jets?
Jets. It was the Giants or the Jets, and it was. We thought it would be a blowout, and it was not. I think it came down to like the last quarter. It wasn't neither of those teams. It was the Cowboys.
Dude, it was the Cowboys. Yeah.
It was the Cowboys, right? And
no, and I was thinking about that because like Smith Schuster was doing some stupid stuff on he was trying to recreate like the old celebrations on the Star. Remember that?
Yeah.
You saw some of the highlights. I was like, that's what happened. That wasn't like that. Why are we thinking? But you know what's also funny? Among the fact that we mentioned the Giants and Jets as pretty much because they're the worst teams, we are now considering that Dallas is among those teams that we could just mention as a trash team.
I was thinking crap teams. And
they're all just trash teams, and Dallas is now in that conversation.
Right, and so the Steelers get away with a win there.
So the Cowboys, yes, for clarification.
Yeah, and so they start 8-0 for the first time in franchise history. Not much else coming out of that game. The game that had my attention this weekend, well, there was two of them, and I think I'll start with the one that had the less of a story. Patriots Jets. Pats win that one 30-27. The Jets, opposite of the Steelers, start 0-9 for the first time in franchise history. They are a dumpster fire right off the season.
I watched every second of that Monday Night Football game too.
That was a battle of it wasn't a very good game in my opinion.
It was actually an interesting coaching battle in terms of a chess match, because you had times where Cam Newton would you could tell they were loading Cam Newton up. They were running down, and then as soon as the plays and the time had depleted down, the Jets weren't ready to cover a deep throw, and then Cam would come through with that MVP arm and he'd huck some bombs. And not importantly, I say huck some bombs. I mean, he threw 15 10-yard passes on target, which is just what advances the ball, and when it hits a Jets defense that isn't very versatile, it's just like Belichick and his coordinator. Yeah, he has a known name. I know I'm forgetting it, but they have this. It's just a meat and grind style of football that is boring. Even with Tom Brady, it was still pretty boring. But it's the Patriots' way, and they won.
Yeah, and all week I'd been hearing leading up to this game, Sam Darnold. The Jets have been trying to build around this guy for the last couple seasons. And Joe Flacco played for them instead, so I guess they.
Oh my God, Joe Flacco! Shout out to Joe Flacco throwing a moving bomb on the run on his back foot over the head, 50 yards.
Yeah.
He played great. He threw 2 great touchdown bombs, I believe, and at the end of the game, what threw the Jets out of the game was he threw 2 deep interceptions. That was absolutely. He thought he was I think he thought he was Mahomes for a second, and he thought he could keep going, but the perception kicked in, and he got picked off twice over the top overthrows. But the 2 throws just made me realize that he did win a Super Bowl 8 years ago.
Well, that was 8 years ago, though.
Right. That's why I said, that's why I didn't even think he could do that touchdown. So I'm like sitting there like, how does this guy throw off the foot on the run over a 50-yard? Like, it wasn't even like he wasn't planted, he didn't drop step. He was moving forward and he flicked it. It was crazy.
I just want to go back to the Pittsburgh-Dallas game quickly because the Dallas quarterback, they are, when I looked at like the pregame, it wasn't that Da Vinci or DiNucci guy. It was Garrett Gilbert, who sounds like a made-up like CPU player from Madden 21, right? Yeah. And fun fact about him, he actually played in the defunct USA Football League or something. So that was the last time he took a snap, was in that now defunct USA Football League or whatever it was called, AAF or whatever. So that's fun about that. And then the last game that had my interest this weekend was the Saints and the Buccaneers. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers rolling going into this game. They acquired a new weapon in Antonio Brown. Gronk was just starting to get going, and they get blown out by the Saints 28-3. And Tom Brady threw 3 interceptions for the first time since 2011. So that was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, for sure. It is. It's Friday now, let's be honest, and we're talking about last Sunday's games, and the week's gone by and the news has happened for you guys out there. I know it has. But that was just an absolute brutal. I mean, it was an ass kicking, really. I mean, it was just an ass kicking, and the Buccaneers are looking to bounce back, and we're getting real close to a huge slate of games on Sunday. So,
yeah, it's going to be a good Sunday. We have some good games, just some games of note quickly before we move on. Bills are playing the Cardinals. Buffalo have won 6 of 7 versus the Cardinals. The Buccaneers are playing the Panthers. So that's going to be that Panthers team don't necessarily, it's not a guaranteed win for the Bucs. Eagles, Giants, Texans, Browns. The Browns might be in a bit of trouble because they were in COVID lockdown. And what do you mean? Sorry, I just had someone sneak into the room. The Browns
we love that.
The Browns are put into put into COVID lockdown today, and they're playing the Texans. So the Texans might be able to sneak out a win here. And then we have the Bengals Steelers. I'm interested in this game because the Bengals have looked really good, and the Steelers just squeezed a win out. And if the Bengals are the team to break the undefeated streak of the Steelers, that's going to be a big story in that NFL, and Joe Burrow is going to want that attention.
And that's a huge rivalry too. Do you remember those games?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll have my eyes on that one. That's the 4:25 game, so I'll be home. I'll be having that on one screen and the Bills game on the other. So that's going to be a fun one. And then the night game that night, we got the Pats and the Ravens. That's the Sunday night game. And then the Monday night game, it's a meh game, Vikings Bears. So got some good games coming up. We're getting into crunch time. Week 10 playoffs are just around the corner. I guess we should mention this. The Super Bowl halftime show was announced. It's going to be Toronto's own The Weeknd.
Canadian.
Which makes sense because they've been playing his song like nonstop during the broadcasts, that Blinded by the Light song. So, which is pretty cool for Canada. So we'll see, we'll see him in February at the halftime show, whatever that may look like with the COVID restrictions.
I just vibed out in my head, and we're probably gonna have a good clip of that. That was awesome. The Weeknd is performing at the halftime show. Hopefully the game is interesting to watch, but everyone, I was talking to my friend last night about this. Everyone, like, I don't care who you are, the hardest person of heart who has no feelings will turn on that one Weeknd song, and before you know it, their foot's tapping, and even if they don't even like it. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't like his voice, what about it? It feels like something's coming when there's something about to happen. There is something about to happen. Hopefully a big play, hopefully a big game. But, as Jay and Dan would say earlier, Canadian performing and that's huge too, because we have the Weeknd and we don't even get good Grey Cup performances. So like, this is huge.
We had Shania Twain do it one year, so that was Cool.
I mean,
That's-
Shania Twain. I mean, I love Shania Twain. She I have a lot of respect for Shania Twain. If you knew about where she started, and anyway, she started out in like Muskoka, Ontario, and I go to the resort where she started out singing. Like I don't own anything there, but we have a place there and that's where she got her start singing. So I have a lot of respect for her. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that yes, but old. She's old.
Right. So that concludes the Shania Twain segment of the podcast, and we're
Oh,
going
I'm
on
sorry,
to the
Shania Twain. I didn't mean to
Masters.
call you old, but like, come on.
I doubt she
No,
listens, but I'll send her an apology message after this.
Imagine. I'm not even talking to everyone that's gonna just hate the fact I would call her old, but I'm calling a spade here. She's great. I love her songs.
So in conclusion, The Weeknd is playing the halftime show, and Brandon thinks Shania Twain is old. So moving on to the Masters, Tiger Woods, defending
Not old.
champion. Tiger Woods, defending champion, looking good. He, I guess we should give some backstory. The Masters was supposed to tee off yesterday at like 7:30 in the morning, and I turned it on, all excited. I think they played about 15 minutes, and then rain delay. So they fell behind by 3 hours because they're playing in November and it usually takes place in April. They're losing 3 hours of daylight. So they already were in trouble of not finishing on time because because of this, they had people teeing off on the first tee and the 10th tee in groups of 3, which is something the Masters doesn't usually do. So they are not going to finish the second round today. They'll have to finish that tomorrow morning, which will push the third round, which will push the final round. And there's some talk they might have to play into Monday. But
I love that. I'd love that. Just because I have nothing else to do.
Right. I only love it if it's close. If someone's leading, like if they're halfway through round 4.
Yeah, just get it out of here.
And there's like 9 holes left and someone's leading by 8
Why are you
strokes.
going to make everyone wake up and do this pointless 2.5 hour golf round?
Right, exactly. And even if they do that, I'll be watching it. But yeah, Tiger looks good. He shot 4 under yesterday. And he was bogey free for the first time in 109 rounds of his of golf. So that's good. We'll see how he does today. There was a lot of talk surrounding Bryson DeChambeau going into this tournament about how he's just going to tear this course up and bomb it and just cut corners over the trees. They're talking on the par 5s. He'll be going driver, wedge, and then a putt. So just a chip and putt for this guy. But he didn't look good yesterday. He, on the first 3 holes, had 2 provisional balls. His second provisional on, I believe it was 13, he blasted into the water, so he had to go into the bush to find his first one. And then he didn't look good, but the guy still shot 2 under. So does that scare the rest of the field, do you think?
Quick question. Do you know if he's the world number 1?
He is not.
Or is that DJ? Oh, you're looking at it up?
DJ, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe.
I know DeChambeau is probably second, honestly.
No, I think John Rahm's number 2.
Okay.
I'll look it up quickly. You go to your point.
Yeah. Well, my point I want to make my point because I know a lot about Bryson DeChambeau, but I want to know he's the 6th. He's 6th.
Yeah, it's Johnson, Rahm, Thomas, McIlroy, and then.
Yeah. So I thought. Yeah, the Bryson DeChambeau, I wasn't hearing too much actually. That's interesting you brought those up. I know he's always favored. He has a lot of different, I wouldn't even say. So yeah, different's the word because different to the rest of the field. I don't know if you noticed, this, but he has a lot of, if you listen to the commentators, especially when he was younger in his career lately, I don't know how often they talk about it, but he has a different method of playing golf. All of his clubs are the same size. So all of the clubs he uses are the same length. All of his irons, I think, maybe all of the clubs are the same length as like an 8 iron. And so, I mean, the length of the club affects the range that they can go. But so he does this, and he also does this upright position. So he has his lie is like super upright, and he has a super different type of swing. So everything he does is like unauthentic to the game of golf is what I'm trying to say. And I mean, he mentions is how he was like one of the first guys to step over putts and put his 3 fingers up, and him and his caddy would be like, oh yeah, that's a 2% putt and that's a 1% putt, and he would be reading this putts like a mad scientist, and he kind of brought this into the game, and he was like, he studied it in school, like he went to school, and he developed like methods on how undulations work in the greens and how he can bend his swing to shoot the ball one way and shoot the ball the other way. So that in turn for me never cuts him out of a competition. Like he always has this edge. It's kind of like he's not like this naturally gifted golfer. He knows everything about it, and he wants to know everything about it. Therefore, I think he always is successful in tournaments. I don't know about his game, so I can't say this course favors him in a way or not. If like he's not the longest hitter by any means, so when they say cut corners, go over trees, go around bends, and this and that, I'm thinking of Dustin Johnson or Bubba Watson or Rory McIlroy. I don't know. I know DeChambeau's a strong guy, but I know he's straight. But I'm not thinking about him in terms of carrying the course. What about? I mean,
He surprised me yesterday with his play, and I kind of thought about it a little bit because there's a lot of talk about how he's just going to bomb it down the fairway and bomb it 300, 350, and then just chip his way onto the green. But that only works if you hit it straight. And
yeah, exactly.
But he was hitting it far left and far right, so that's not going to work. And Augusta's a course that you need experience in. And so I think that's why, just looking at the leaderboard now, there's a lot of experienced golfers near the top. And just a side note, all these scores are really good. Like the projected cut right now is 1 under, and our guy, Mike Weir, is going to make the cut currently. He tees
Can you
off
tell me where
at
Mackenzie Hughes
252.
is by chance?
No idea. But yeah, we're going to see a lot of good golfers move on to the weekend. So it's been fun. It's only the first 2 rounds. Like the Masters really picks up in round 3 and definitely round 4. And I'm excited to see how this turns out. I got some money on some golfers in this, so we'll see how it plays out, and I'm invested. So my dad, he gave me some picks for him, and his dark horse was Matt Wolff, who actually had a pretty good round yesterday. So we'll see how that turns out for us, but it's
right on.
It's going to be a good finish, and I'm excited for it. And then we get to do it again in April because the Masters is going back to regularly scheduled in April. So back-to-back Masters. Yeah, back-to-back Masters.
That's awesome for Tiger if he can get something going here.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I love it. You check in on the Canadians?
Maybe. I don't think Hughes got into the Masters this year.
No, he got into the next one.
Oh, poor guy. Thought he was in this one.
And while we're on golf, you put in here about a Tiger Woods documentary.
Yes, I sent you that, but I mean, the industry, I guess, of documentaries, if you're not familiar with it, is absolutely skyrocketing right now. Ever since The Last Dance came out, and this has prompted what you sent me before, like Stone Cold Steve Austin might get one. So
they better do that, because that will be the greatest piece of TV ever created, of a Stone Cold Steve Austin Last Dance documentary. Oh
yeah.
And if they can get the WWE involved in that and all the footage, that would be so good.
Yeah, all that old school footage would be great. But for Tiger Woods, this one I am so excited for. Tiger Woods' life has been documented since he was a little boy, and back then documentations of life were not widely used. There was not phones, but you see these videos of him when he was young with his father. Like, people knew about Tiger Woods was coming up, and he was such a cute, innocent little boy. When you look back at those interviews and his rise to stardom, like his domination, and then his publicity failures, I would say, that drowned him in the media and maybe some other things. He's about to tee off, and there we go. Is he going to look down at the tee?
He likes it.
So
middle of the fairway, and he's off.
There's nothing. I mean, I love Tiger Woods. I know he's done some wrong things, and he's been through a lot of things off the golf course, and he's my mother's favorite golfer, and I can still remember the time where we were at the PGA Championship in Buffalo at Oak Hill, and it was like 10 deep just to watch Tiger tee off on 10, and I was about to go catch up on a 2 deep row where no one was really following Ricky Fowler, but my mom and I split up because she was just starstruck by Tiger Woods and had to see him even if she just saw the top of his hat. And so for me, this isn't only going to hit home for myself watching this documentary, but something I can share with my family, hopefully.
Right, and he really threads the needle in golf, and they don't have that next star yet. Hopefully they can make one, but you think Tiger Woods, you think everybody knows who that is, be it good or bad. So that documentary would be pretty cool. He just teed off at the Masters first shot right in the middle of the fairway, so he's underway. We'll track him as we go.
Definitely.
You got some NBA news for me.
Let's go right into it. All right, guys.
Yeah.
The Raptors Christmas time. I mean, it's going to be happening around Christmas time. The Raptors will be back. We got the snow globe on the shirt. Let's hope for the best. Hopefully the snow globe does not get shaken up too hard, and that we have a steady start on December 2nd, like it looks like we've all agreed upon in the NBA, and that brings a 72 game season, right? So that's only 10. That's really good in my opinion. That's 10 games less than the regular. That's a good amount of revenue, and that's a good amount of traction for the NBA, I still think, and then we'll turn it around soon. So I mean that's been set. We've been speculating about the December 22nd date in weeks past, but I think the next thing that hits home on the basketball rumors is where Toronto Raptors are going to find a place to stay and play basketball this year. I've sent a lot of things to you about. I know they've really been thinking that they can try here, they can try here, they can try here in Toronto, and they're trying and they're really trying their best. I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different, analysts and players, even on podcasts. Like Fred VanVleet went on a podcast recently and talked a lot about the fact that he doesn't even know where the Raptors are going to play. And then a day after that, Tampa Bay seems to be a front runner in what seems to be where the Raptors would be hosted. And I think that's great, to be honest with you, because Tampa Bay is a winning city. They understand good sport culture, and they don't have a basketball team. And the Raptors are familiar in the the Florida area. That's where the bubble was held, I guess. So it's not Orlando by any means, but Tampa Bay is something that they can, I would say, definitely cling on to for a season. What's up to you?
Yeah, I just think it's important they find somewhere that they're comfortable, right? Because that's going to be your home arena. And TFC talked about this, saying where they were playing in Connecticut wasn't the best, and it definitely affected their play. So I definitely think they need to not just look at like practicality of it, but they also need to talk to the players and say, hey, you're going to feel comfortable here because this is going to be your home for the season. We know you're not in Toronto, but this is your home arena. This is where you're going to be living, be it in a hotel or a rental home. So I don't so much think it's about like being where you are. It's how you feel where you are, right? Because that's going to be, after a shit game, you're not going to be able to go back to your bed. You're going back to a hotel room, and that's going to be where you're going back to after every loss. And, it's important. So they just need to think about that. Hopefully they can get some games in Toronto, hopefully near the end of the season. Like, we're seeing some improvements with the rapid testing, but I don't think it's going to happen before December 22nd.
Yeah. And just to finish off on the Toronto Raptors, I had I guess what I'm trying to say is that I love when, like, the stuff that's authentic, and when I say stuff, I mean like podcasts. And for instance, I don't know if you know the NBA player named JJ Redick, if you've ever heard of him. So JJ Redick actually is a great player. He's like one of the best NCAA three-point shooters to ever go down in history, and he's currently on the Pelicans, and he's automatic from deep, and that's what his role is, to catch and shoot threes. He also has his own podcast. It's called The Old Man and the Three, and I don't know what that is. It's him and his friend. I don't even know who his friend is, but it has a lot of traction, a lot of subscribers, and he has a lot of, like, every guest is an NBA player he's played with, and the most recent one was Fred VanVleet, and it actually came out this past week. And what I'm trying to say is, I love the fact that this authentic podcast, the authenticity of JJ Redick having Fred VanVleet on his podcast, and then that's where TSN, the Score, and everywhere else gets the news from. You know what I mean? So when they broadcast it, they're like, "Oh, Fred VanVleet said this," but it's just like they didn't do shit to get that content. JJ Redick is lucky enough that he shared that with you, and so that's why I love the fact that the corporate industries will never understand what it's like to be an athlete and like what's going on in trade rumors and how it feels like to be handled by the business. Like they're getting these quotes and they're putting it in the smallest lettering in their titling. They're like, "Oh, this is what Fred VanVleet said via JJ Redick's podcast." It's like they don't give enough credit to like where the real news comes from and who actually cares about the sports other than like a random intern getting paid to post it to Instagram. That was kind of a rant, but back to my point. Fred VanVleet, he kind of went off on this. I'll be very, very vague with you. He's probably not coming back if you're a Raptors fan. I mean, that's what a lot of us got the vibe from. He was quoted for saying like, "I'm aware. I want my money. I want my bag. Like I'm looking for my money now." He's not looking to be behind Kyle Lowry. He doesn't want to be behind Kyle. He doesn't want to be he wants to hold the ball. And, he probably doesn't care if that's the Knicks or the Hornets. And that's going to be where he's going to have a fancy car and a fancy watch. And it's going to be in the States where he's not worried about crossing the border. And as much as we love Fred VanVleet and probably going to offer him the exact same amount as someone else will, this is going to be one of those situations where he's going to feel more comfortable going somewhere else, unfortunately. And he voiced his opinion very strongly about it too, without saying it, if you can understand what I mean.
I think he'll be a Raptor. Like it's a tactic, right? If you want, say you want, I don't know, what's he looking for? Maybe 22, 23 million a year?
That's a good question. I actually haven't even understood. Yeah, well, let's just say.
He's going to say, okay, well, I want 25. And then the Raptors will be like, okay, well, we'll give you 20. And then they're going to be
the Raptors. I hope the Raptors just give everything that he asks for. Because if Kyle Lowry, because he's going to be the next. And Fred VanVleet's going to be someone. Fred VanVleet, not a Raptor, will carry another team to very far points in their successes. Is what I'm trying to say.
I don't think he's a number one though. Like
and that's what he talked about very, very strongly. And he said that he thinks he is. So that's I want to hear you talk, but I want to let you know that this podcast broke my heart because he really thinks that he's deserving of holding the ball for like 40 minutes of the game.
Right. And he might be able to do that in a couple of years in Toronto because Lowry won't be around much longer. I think he's probably he's got maybe 2 seasons left.
2-3 at an old pace.
Yeah, and VanVleet right now is not a number one. Yeah, he was essential to that championship run, and last year he was essential. But the Raptors have some other guys that can take that role, and they got some young and up and coming players as well. And so I think it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So stay in Toronto on a team that's going to be pretty decent.
Hey, wow. What was that? That was a great quote. At Kawhi Leonard. Dude, oh my God. I never thought that, whatever that is, I'm adding Fred VanVleet. Let's not make the same mistake as Kawhi Leonard did. Let's not do it to the fans that we've already been through this.
Right. And
you saw what happened.
And you know what? If he leaves, he leaves. But, the grass ain't always green on the other side. Wow. So
where did you come up with that?
I don't know. I thought of it myself. I'm pretty good at this. So, stay here. Don't go play in a shithole. Stay here. Pretty decent team. They're going to pay you. They're going to take care of you. They're a top-class organization. Your family's already settled here. You're a hero in this city. So,
what a hero. I will get your jersey, VanVleet. This is what heroes do.
I put it like this. If you want a statue, sign in Toronto.
This is what heroes get in my heart. I mean, I know he's not Toronto Raptor Vince Carter, but he brought the shit here. Wasn't for this man's though.
Right. So we'll see what happens there. And you know what? If he does leave, that frees up space for what seems like it's going to be a pretty loaded 2021 free agency.
Oh my God! And Serge Ibaka could be on the way out. The Rockets are making a strong case to get a big man, which they need, and he can shoot threes. And Serge might be, and Serge hasn't said anything about returning. So Serge is a huge part. Gasol's getting old and might not even come back. Remember that? So
you mentioned the Rockets. What's going on in Houston?
And hey, that's a good point. Very well. The Rockets and Ibaka leads right into the fact that a prelude to this Russell Westbrook, if you haven't been following along, and he's asking for a trade. The prelude to this is a firing of the head coach, and then I think it was either the firing or the step down of the GM, and then a really young GM came in and a really young coach came in. So now the Rockets are in a position where it almost seems like to the stars of the team that they're rebuilding. And it came out, the first piece of news that came out was that the stars of Houston were unhappy. And then the next day, Russell Westbrook wants out. And then you're just thinking like, okay, where's the verification? Where's the verification? And then it's on the score. It's on everywhere. It's been pretty verified. And then you give it literally 12 more hours. Okay, the Charlotte Hornets emerge as favorites for Russell Westbrook. So Russell Westbrook really wants out. I was listening to a couple people talk about the fact that Russell Westbrook is looking for the ball back in his hands without having to share with James Harden. And that's where he had his triple, and he's when people are talking about, no one will ever replicate the fact that Russell Westbrook had that 42 game triple double season where he averaged a triple double, where through 82 games he got 42, and so that was a historic season. No one's done that since Oscar Robertson way back in the day, and they're saying that that comes through holding the ball, running the ball, and giving it through Russell Westbrook. And I think that if he can just go to somewhere, I'm not saying I think that people are saying if he can go to somewhere that the ball is dominantly in his hands, regardless of the fact that he can't shoot deep, that's where he'll have the most success. But if it's Charlotte, I know he's going to kick himself, but clearly doesn't want to be in Houston.
Yeah, he seems to be back on his bullshit again, so we'll see where that goes.
And that's the other thing, and he just keeps finessing franchises. But this is creating a trend. It's creating a bad trend, but I don't know if it's going to be a trend that sticks around of just players dating. These players are just dating teams, kind of. They're on Tinder with these teams now. It seems like they're on Tinder with these teams. I'll give you a swipe for a year, but I might not like you.
Right. And then there was one more big one, kind of relates back to Toronto. Apparently the Lakers are interested in DeMar DeRozan.
It definitely relates back to Toronto. I'd say that for Toronto fans, just on the outside, you'd love to see DeMar DeRozan kind of went underneath the radar when he went to San Antonio in terms of team success. They didn't even make the playoffs this past year. And you didn't hear about DeMar DeRozan too well. He actually had steady numbers. They improved every year since he left. So that's why he's back on the radar. And since he doesn't have a contract, just like Derrick Rose, I'd love to see him win. I'd love to see DeMar win. And I know that the Lakers are definitely going to be repeating candidates with AD and LeBron, no matter who else is on the sideline. And if you add someone in the mid-range and experience and veterans as DeMar DeRozan, someone who is from Compton, he is from LA. DeMar DeRozan is going to literally scratch, fight, and claw because he's not going to be ungrateful of the opportunity that he's deserved. He deserves that. I think he would deserve that. And I think it's good for him. And I think that it gets Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma. Just they can have Danny Green, probably flip him for someone else, a pick, and then Kyle Kuzma can actually touch the ball in San Antonio, maybe develop.
Right. And I got one more piece of NBA news that's kind of related, but not really. There's a wrestling show called All Elite Wrestling, and they are direct competitors with the WWE. And in the States, they air on the TNT network, along with, I guess, that show Shaq's on, the NBA one.
NBA on TNT, pretty much.
NBA on TNT. So he was brought up on the most recent episode, one of the wrestlers.
Shaq?
Cody Rhodes was taking shots at Shaq, so it looks like Shaq's going to be wrestling Cody Rhodes.
Publicity, nothing serious.
Yeah, it's cross promotion. They've already had Mike Tyson on, and he was going head to head with Chris Jericho. So
Mike Tyson is a finessing ass little. Okay, I'm just kidding. I love you, Mike Tyson. But didn't we find out that he staged something? Like, come on, Mike Tyson.
Yeah, we'll leave Mike Tyson alone. We'll spend hours on him. So does that wrap up the NBA? Are you good?
Yeah, you know what? We have so much we could talk about, but the NBA is, it's coming. 18th, that's 5 days away is the draft. And then in 9 days now, free agency starts. And then December 22nd, you'll start seeing NBA action. So that's very promising. I'll kick it into the NHL because that's where we're going to lead to next.
Right.
The NHL has been, a dry spell, honestly. But there's been a lot of hockey news. So what do you have? You're the guy.
I'm going to give you the update. So there's a lot of information here. The NHL and the NHLPA have been talking, and that's all we know. So there's your update about when hockey's coming back. They are same quote every time, aiming for a January 1st start. It's currently November 13th, so you might want to decide pretty quick because you got to open training camps and get players to come back and probably quarantine because there's a.
I hope the NBA always
So-
the NBA always has a stake in what the society does, and so maybe
Right.
it does something with the NHL's energy level towards getting back.
Yeah, and I'm sure it won't. The NHL does whatever they want when they want, so we'll see what it does. There was an article posted in the Toronto Sun that kind of caused some controversy online, and I'm just going to bring it up because it's kind of funny. Jack Han, who used to work with Sheldon Keefe and the Marlies, spoke with someone from the Toronto Sun, and he was saying that Sheldon Keefe might move to a new system where they're going to use 3 defensemen and 2 forwards instead of 3 forwards and 2D. And the whole idea behind it is that you hold possession of the puck longer.
That just means you put Tavares and Matthews on D and tell them their defense because they can control the puck way better than anyone else.
I don't want to give this too much attention. I just thought it was kind of funny because I don't think any hockey team would ever do that unless you're defending a lead. So
that's how dry NHL news is.
Yeah,
we are talking about stuff that doesn't exist.
Yeah, so there's that. Kind of moving away from the NHL a little bit, the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, also known as the QMJHL, have run into some COVID troubles. A lot of their teams are getting not just like 1 or 2 cases, but full-on outbreaks. So they are going to be playing in a bubble for, I think it was the 17th to the 27th of November at one of the arenas there. So hopefully they can get that back on track because they need some of those players are going to the World Juniors, so they need to get that under control. Otherwise, they won't be allowed into the World Junior bubble. And those players will be leaving in just about a month now. December 14th is when they're expected to arrive for the World Juniors. So that's the only like QMJHL news I have. I want to save this Don Cherry one for last. So the new jerseys. I know you're a jersey guy, and Adidas has come out with a concept, and the only reason I can think they're doing it is because there's absolutely no income in sports right now with fans not coming into the building, and they're doing what they call reverse retro jerseys. So it's kind of like a throwback jersey with reverse colors, which is weird because they're giving Vegas one. So
yeah, I'm excited about it. I know I sit there in front of the screen. I'm like, okay, money. But for hopefully, I mean, if they get used and they're pictured on screen and they're shown on the TV, I've seen a couple of the patches. I love. Wow, I just love. Okay.
You love it?
I love authentic retro jerseys like the CCM ones and the authentic designs. Adidas has a good jersey. I won't lie. Like the authentic Adidas jerseys that you can buy for like a pretty high ticket though are a good quality, and they come with good stitching and all the printing on it and the fight strap as well. So I mean those are nice. The price is not nice, but like the concepts look great. The concepts to bring a sense of excitement to fans. Sometimes the players, like, yeah, you're right. Even the NBA is dropping these new jerseys too. Like, the professional sports needs something to carry them over right now, and hopefully they're hoping that they can do this through sales of jerseys. Not to say that I don't like the designs. I'm really excited to see all the NHL ones. I mean, I'm gonna sit here and like fanboy over them, but it sucks. You're just going to be seeing a picture of them for a long time. You just want to see them on the ice, really.
Right. And hopefully we see them on the ice soon. So it was about a year ago now, Don Cherry was let go from CBC and Hockey Night in Canada for comments that were made. And it wasn't just those comments. It was stuff he had been up there before. And he has since, started his own podcast where he talks about stuff from the 80s that only nobody really cares about because we've heard his stories a million times. And he gives his input on hockey and reminds us every episode that he coached Bobby Orr. And it's kind of sad where his career has gone a little bit. But but that's besides the point. But he tweeted that he had spoken to some NHL owners, or I think he'd heard that
The one's in his
NHL
head. The one's in
owners,
his head.
yeah, that they would be totally fine with canceling the 2021 season. To which I almost uninstalled Twitter, threw my phone off the balcony, and jumped off with it, because that is the most ridiculous take.
Here's a hot take. Here's a hot take. Don Cherry's it doesn't know what hot takes are.
No, and I could go on and on. I used to love Don Cherry. He was entertaining as hell.
It is so sad. I own every single Rock'em Sock'em up to like 20, and it looks like he's talking with dementia right now.
Right. He went off a cliff, and I don't want to make fun of the guy too much, but for those 7 minutes, like 3.5 of them were comprehensible. He would just
honestly, man, I could make fun of him. He said some stuff he decided to say, and more importantly, he decided to stay like a tough asshole for his whole life. Like he always pushed around Ron McLean, and he never changed, and he always interrupted, and you could tell like you just loved him or you loved him. And if you loved him, you were probably the same age and grew up watching him. And if you're younger than him, you probably didn't agree with what he said. And if your parents liked him, you probably bought all the Rock'em Sock'ems from them. So you like hockey and you like what he showed you. But now it's just like, who is this Mr. Clean with just a little bit of hair telling me what he knows? Like,
yeah, just looking back at it, he really started to fall off. And, he maybe shouldn't tweet things like that, because the people that follow him are the same people that think the Leafs should trade Nylander for like scraps. So
second rounder.
It's ridiculous. And I hope he never tweets something like that again because of that. Speaking of Twitter, we had a strange incident where I have never once in my life tweeted about Marcus Stroman, and apparently he tweeted something, and I went to look at it and I was blocked. So
Marcus Stroman and the Arizona Coyotes have blacklisted our Josh Egan. We're not going to sit here and say that again. I'm officially banning Marcus Stroman from the podcast. We were going to have him on soon, but Marcus Stroman, we can't reach you now through the DMs, and you must have not liked something that Josh reposted. So we're sorry, man.
Yeah, you sensitive fuck.
Good luck on the Mets.
Moving on.
Where is he?
He's with the Mets.
The Mets?
Yeah,
state,
bro. That's a good transition into the MLB, actually, and the Mets, because some big news just coming out of there.
Whoa, I didn't even do that on purpose.
That was smooth. We are just naturally good at this. The first female GM in the MLB has been hired. And this is a huge step for women in sports. We just had our big women in sports episode, and I don't want to take credit for this hiring, but they might have watched it. So maybe that's why they hired them. But, it's really cool. I'm just going to pull up all the information here so I get it correct. It's a really, really welcome change to the sport world. And I hope other sports follow in this path of having more females on their staff. So, it wasn't the Mets. It was the Marlins. She came from the Mets. So the Marlins hired Kim.
Always
messing that up.
Yeah, always ruining what we thought was a great take.
The Marlins hired Kim Ng, who she's been in baseball forever. I think she spent like 22
been in the Mets organization though.
Yeah, she has been with the Mets, and she's been with the Mets, the White Sox, the Yankees, the Dodgers. Looks like she's been around quite a bit. She has 3 World Series to her name, so she knows what she's doing. I don't know what changes she's going to make there, but it's going to be really cool to see, the progress that this has in the sporting world, and I hope other sports follow. I think the next time we see it,
Rebecca Hammond. So Rebecca Hammond is currently Greg Popovich's assistant coach in San Antonio in the NBA, especially with lots of people looking for different answers and other ways to hear basketball through a coach's eyes. In the NBA, they're always looking for new and better things. Becky Hammond is proven, just like what we're seeing in the MLB. She's been in the industry with right alongside on the bench. She's been on the bench beside Pop for the last however many years, and I have heard her in the news, and she should be deserving of a head coach position anytime soon. And this, like you said, hopefully a domino effect.
Right, and we're seeing it a little more in the hockey world now. Like a lot of front offices are hiring females to come in. Like the Maple Leafs they have Haley Wickenheiser on staff. The Seattle Kraken have hired, they hired 3 female scouts. So it's looking really good up there. And I just hope the NFL a couple weeks ago had the first game where there was 2 assistant female coaches and 1 female referee. So we're getting there. We are getting there. It's baby steps, but we're getting there. And it's just nice to kind of see. This is kind of the first big step being taken in that direction. And I hope it's the first domino of many to fall. So let's keep that moving forward. It's really, really, really good to see. And I just want to wrap it up with some promising news. It's kind of been dull news lately, not that exciting, with all this COVID shit, numbers are going up. But Ticketmaster came out with, I guess it was a statement or new policies or kind of a plan where
a statement on a potential new policy, right. I guess.
They want to start letting people back into arenas, into concerts, into events in 2021. I did look into it a little bit. It would be dependent on where the event is held. So you would have to prove that you've either had the COVID vaccine or in the last 48 hours have a COVID negative test. So you would show this before the event and then you would be let in. If you can't prove this, you will not be admitted into the event. I think this is a really good idea. Let's get people back in the building, start getting back to normal life. It's good prevention because it shows that, people are looking forward to this. So I just, it was a little piece of happy news to see that, hey, I might be going to a hockey game within the next 2 years and not the next 5. So that was really cool to see. I missed out on some events because of COVID, and obviously there's bigger problems in the world than that. But knowing that the rescheduled dates that they've been made for are attainable, it's kind of cool. I also have a bone to pick with the Ottawa Senators because I'm still owed money back from them for a Leafs Sens game, and they never refunded me. So trash organization.
Oh my God. I bought a Raptors ticket. I was literally going to the next Raptors Pistons game. And then I think I told you about that. The Wednesday or the Thursday I got canceled, and I was going on the Saturday to the ACC, and the Raptors were playing. And it took me like 3 months to get my money back because they were waiting for the official cancellation, but it was 3 months. Yeah. I just need my money back.
Bro, there's a pandemic. Give me my money back.
Like the bubble had started, and the Raptors were in Orlando, and they still said the Raptors may play the game. I'm like, no, give me my money back.
You got to fly to Orlando to watch it.
Yeah, vaccination is a vaccination. I talked to a lot of people about this, not just as necessarily the fact that what it has to do with getting back into events, just the vaccination about coronavirus in general. A lot of people are skeptical that I know, like, they're like, I don't get needles, I don't get vaccinations. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? Like, is this the answer then? Or where are we going in the world? This is I'm totally off of a sports related topic right now because we're mentioning vaccines, but first steps first, we need a vaccine that works. And then second of all, we need a vaccine that people trust. And then third of all, I'd say we need to make sure that everyone can get it. And then everyone's not scared of it, and that there's limited as amount of side effects and anxieties surrounding it. It's a vaccination. I remember the swine flu came through and I got vaccinated for the swine flu. It is what it is. It wiped out my community. I remember getting sick, and a lot of people I knew getting sick. And I can't say I'm going to sit here and say I will or won't get the vaccination. I'm waiting to see its arrival into the world,
Right. And I'm terrified of like I believe they work. I have like a phobia of needles. I always almost pass out whenever I get one. But if there was a COVID vaccination available, I would take it because it's going to get me back into events and back to normal life without all these restrictions. And obviously the restrictions are in place for a reason to protect people who are vulnerable. But yeah, I would definitely, get that
we could go on.
So
we don't want to talk about coronavirus too much. We just want to mention that we want to sit here and say thank you guys. If you tuned in to this last segment, I know no one comments and no one really likes it, but if you watch to the very end, just leave a like, leave a comment. I'm gonna try to leave some. I just want to see someone. I want to know if someone listened. I just want to know if someone watched this to the end, watched 30 minutes, watched 10 minutes, watched 5 minutes of a certain part because of Instagram. I just want to know where you're coming from, why you watch, what you like to hear from us. We want people to watch. We don't want to just talk because we like sports, even though that's why we made it. We want people to interact with us, and we want you to like our stuff, and we don't want to sit here and just do it for no publicity. We'd like as many people
Right.
to tell us what we're doing wrong and right.
Right, and we are growing. I look at the numbers almost every day, and every episode gets more and more views. And the average watch time is going up per episode. I think we're up to like the average watch time on the last episode was 37 minutes. So that's
awesome.
Really good.
This is going to be a great episode. We
Yeah.
came with a lot today. I want to put out a bunch of segments on Instagram to get the people excited for sure. There's
Right.
a lot of things that we brought a lot of energy today, and I think that we can be animated. If you guys like it, we can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And until next time, I think we're going to come back on Tuesday after the sporting weekend.
Have a good weekend, guys. And
little risky
everyone,
to record Monday since we might have the Masters. So
tell us how it was going to be a lot going down this weekend, and you know, let us know what you guys are going to be watching.
Right. So until then, subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram. I'll put everything in the bio down below. If you're listening on Spotify or Google Music or Apple Music or whatever you listen to, follow us on there too. Every like matters, every comment matters. So until then, we will see you Tuesday, and shout out Shania Twain.